creating a formula to deliver an effect. I think for me, the Googles represent that perfectly, where you've got a main focus, something like Chawanaprash or something like that, that's
Oh,
got
I
good.
love Chawanaprash. I eat it every day.
So I really wanted to bring together in one place where you could look at the safety, the dosage, sustainability,
Yeah.
drug herb interactions, on top of the sort of basic fundamental Ayurveda information as well, which of course is slightly different in different texts.
Welcome to Pure Bliss Akram, holistic place to heal. And we have a very special guest today, and we are very fortunate to talk to Sebastian Pole, the author of the Ayurvedic Medicine, a renowned, really encyclopedia of almost complete Ayurvedic herbs and formula, and also master Herbsmith and co-founder of Pukka Tea. Hello.
Hello, Carolina. Great to be with you.
Yes. Are you really a linguist?
I mean, I studied a bit of Hindi, but I'm not a brilliant linguist by any stretch of the imagination. So I did my degree in Hindi.
Exactly.
So us.
Yeah, that's what I read, and I was amazed because this is such a difficult language.
Well, actually, from the grammatical and alphabetical point of view, it's quite straightforward language. It's a lot easier than English as
Oh,
a
yeah.
language because it sounds as you read it, and there's a clear logic to it. So
Huh.
because I studied Hindi and I can read Hindi, means you can read the words in Sanskrit, but I don't know, Sanskrit grammar and etc. etc. So anyway, yeah, it's helped a lot with my Ayurvedic journey for sure.
Exactly, because that's what I appreciated in the Ayurvedic medicine book, that you have the Latin name of the herbs, you have the Sanskrit, the Hindi, and then even the local one. Because very often we have an herbal name and we are not sure because this is from the local community. And with your book, I can really recognize the proper classification. I really like that. Yeah.
I suppose it was the way I was taught herbalism from a Western point of view, and the Western botanical tradition,
Yeah.
from Linnaeus onwards,
Oh,
the desire to name and understand nature, really. So, well, we'll talk more about it. But when I got into writing the book, having grown up through the European herbal tradition and had some inspiring teachers there, and that was how it was taught. And so,
huh.
adding that into the Ayurvedic realm as well for clarity on identification and making sure you're using the right species in terms of safety, efficacy, sustainability,
Yes.
was all important, really. So one of the reasons for writing the book was because there's so much information out there, was to try and collate it.
Yes. Exactly. Yes. So this tradition, this botany really brought you to Ayurveda, not the other way around. I thought it was first Ayurveda, and then you started appreciating herbs and herbal formulas.
Yeah, no, it was that way around. It was. I got interested in health generally,
Uh-huh.
but European herbalism, so-called Western herbalism, as well as Ayurveda at the same time.
Hmm.
So as I got interested in yoga and Ayurveda, I also started studying European herbal traditions, and one of my teachers from America, and so picked up lots of insight from American herbal tradition. And I think that was what's been useful about the book, perhaps, for the Ayurvedic community, is it's blended lots of these different approaches to health and healing.
Yes.
Uh, there's not necessarily a lot of very original information in the book, but I have collated lots from different sources and styles in a way to bring it into one place. Because for any student of Ayurveda, we know the challenge of getting
Yes.
to grips with the main texts, and understanding it's one thing, but finding where to go is another thing. It's a complex, they're big text, if they're not familiar. So, partly selfish, I suppose, in a way, out of a desire when I was also learning to collate the information to make it easy to not just to reference, but to keep learning. It's always so deep, isn't it? There's just a continual understanding of the plants. And so I really wanted to bring together in one place where you could look at the, the safety, the dosage, sustainability, drug herb interactions, on top of the sort of basic fundamental Ayurveda information as well, which of course is slightly different in different texts. And there's, we're learnings and, evolvings over time. And so it was a way of drawing that together.
Which of the herbs brought you the most difficulty classifying and really classifying the post-digestive effects? Because this is when you read different books, everyone has a slightly different approach to post-digestive qualities.
I know. I mean, I'm not sure of a specific example, but energetics generally is not entirely objective. It's not objective. It's not 100% always this or always that. You always have to consider the standard Ayurvedic rules. Who is having how much of what and when, and that is why I think you get lots of differences in Ayurvedic understanding of certain plants. I don't know. So, for example, simple thing like mint or pudina. You have a cup of hot mint tea. It can make you sweat and heats up your body and
Really?
the exterior. But if you have a cooling cup of, a cooler cup of mint tea, then it is cooling to the body. So I don't think energetics they're not absolute. It depends on how it's used. Sure, you'd have to have a higher dose of peppermint to make it do that. But if you have a hot cup of peppermint, it's a diaphoretic and can make you, it's upwards and ascending and releases heat. So it's, releases heat through warming you up. But it's that thing that it can be an interpretation of a subject. I think there are various things, aren't there? Like people always discuss about lychee warming or cooling, and fresh ginger slightly less heating than dry ginger.
It is. I totally agree.
I mean, these are nuances that I think it's up to the practitioner to determine. Also, based on the quality of that batch of herbs, for example, is going to be a different rougher. And so these are general terms, I think. I mean, ashwagandha, I think, is quite a good example, listed as heating. It's, in India, it becomes too heating for lots of people, ashwagandha. I think it's a much more stronger effect, whereas in the colder climate, it seems to have not such a imbalance to pitta, for example. So probably talk about ashwagandha more because it's a bit of a hot topic in safety terms at the minute. But just as an example, there's a lot to do with climate, the dosage. And so I think that's what's more relevant. For me, energetics is a bit more like a recipe. They're like an idea. They're not 100% that you follow in a linear fashion. It's okay to use something bitter and cooling for someone that is vata.
Yes.
Kapha. A very little bit for a short amount of time, sort of like this,
Makes
or
sense.
warming herbs for pitta. Often you use warming herbs for pitta, don't you? You might use sulfur or ginger or things like this. So, I think it's in the balance.
Is there a formula? Is there a formula that you invented, a formula of a herbal formula that is really close to your heart right now?
I mean, I've been lucky enough to make lots of formulas, not just for my clients, but for Pukka. But that was one of the reasons for writing the book as well, that this art form really and skill of writing an individualized and personalized prescription, I think, is at the heart of all traditional medical traditions, especially Ayurveda, Chinese medicine, European herbalism. This ability to see a client, do a diagnosis, understand their pattern, the cause, if you're lucky enough to be able to work that out early on, to really find a path with them, putting together an individualized prescription and then changing that, I think, is a crucial part of being a skilled practitioner and personalized one. But as for a favorite formula, I mean, there's such beauty in all of the Googles, isn't there? As a way of creating a formula to deliver an effect. I think for me, the Googles represent that perfectly, where you've got a main focus, an activation of Agni, a cleansing of Ama, and then the sort of
Sure.
specific dusha treatment for the illness. So the idea of including Google to clear Ama, clear the Shrotas, with Triphala to support that process, Chikatu to boost Agni, and then with your specific
Yeah.
whatever you're going to use in there, Kanchanara, Punanava, etc. I think those are a beautiful way to understand Ayurvedic formulation. Some of these bigger formulas, I'm not a massive fan of, to be honest. I mean, I'm sure they're brilliant, but they just get too big for me to understand the context and to be able to adjust them, because I think
Yeah,
one of the
like Dashmula, it has so many ingredients. I have no idea what it does. I mean, I know what it does, but really like to feel it.
well, that's quite a reasonable one, Dashmula, but you're
Really?
right. Is it complex? 10 ingredients, but um, something like Chawanaprash or something like that, that's
Oh,
got
I
good.
love Prash. I eat it every day.
Of course, it is a great tonic. But I think they're more difficult to pick apart, perhaps, some of the way the formula is
Sure.
put together. And there's something about the right dose as well. I like in lots of the Googles, particularly, not too many herbs with a reasonably solid dose of the herb like that. Um, but I think, yeah, learning to formulate and finding a way that clients can use the herbs that is acceptable to them, affordable, easy to use
Yeah.
ish, so they're reliable. I think is important so that you get good results, basically. And that's one of the challenges of being in practice. Will people take a churna? Will they drink a decoction?
Yeah.
Sometimes in my experience, for some things, say certain skin diseases, you need to use a higher dose, for example. But that means the taste can be pretty bad and the cost can be more. And so, you have to find the right way.
Right way. So this is what you really like about Ayurveda, the individuality, the possibility of really show your mastership in all the formulas that you create. Yes.
I like it being so specific. I think it's really, you know, phenomenal level of understanding of individual health that can be very simply transferred some of that understanding to the individual, to the client, and so they can be empowered to learn how to look after their own health. And I think that's what Ayurveda really does. And it's very accessible on a sort of day-to-day dinacharya health
Sure.
optimization level. And then I think it's the depth it goes into with its medical pathology and understanding of how to write a diagnosis and then a clinical plan, I think is brilliant. And then, of course, full of compassion and care and kindness as well. But it's really, it's just it's that accessibility. And then there's a real artistry in how the formulas are put together and this knowledge that's been passed down to us. Um, and I think the modern world's got a lot to add into Ayurveda about
Yeah.
quality, safety, sustainability, all of these things. And I think, we all grow together,
Yeah,
basically.
this is one of the challenges. Sometimes I am diabetic type 1, and this is one of the reasons why I started studying Ayurveda, because it
Hmm.
really helped me understand and strengthen my body. And it really did magic. I reduced my insulin intake by like 60%. So, but there's always the challenge, as you say, to have the organic herbs. I always prefer to have the simplest formulas and to have also the closest to the natural herb. So I don't like to take pills. Whenever I can, I take the organic ones, but there's not so many organic. I like organic India, and I can get it here with no problem. So this is another thing, the availability.
Well,
But
I think there are a few things, Karen, I think that stand out there, within quality and sustainability. Quality is so broad in a way in terms of, you know, where do the herbs come from? How have they been grown? How have they been dried? Where have they been stored?
yes.
And then how have they been tested? And I think that the whole herbal world is, really needing to move towards much greater understanding of it not just being the right species, of course, but the compounds in there. When you're using saunf or elaichi or shunti, ginger, we need to know the amount of essential oils in there. We need to know What are some of the alkaloid levels in some of the herbs we're using, etc. So there's that side of it, and then there's the the sustainability side, like you say. So importantly, how's it grown? Not just in terms of the chemicals that are put on the plants, but in terms of the um, welfare of the collectors and the farmers that are working around the plants. And of
Yeah.
course, I don't know the number, but well over 50%, probably over 75% of all the herbs used in Ayurveda come out of the wild.
Yeah.
And obviously, those areas are under more and more pressure as human population needs, resources expand. And so, one of the most important things I think we can do in Ayurveda is making sure that any of the wild herbs we use are really understood where they come from. It really is. And I've worked a lot with an organization called FairWild,
Yeah.
which is a way of ensuring that the whole ecosystem that that species comes from is also um, cared for, assessed for any conflict of interest or any impingement on the rights of the ecosystem, as well as the rights of the local people. Because often the herb trade, the collectors are often a long way away from the sort of main source of cash. And if there are lots of people in the middle, then things can get mixed up. It is hard. You have to work with people that are diligent and that are applying best practice as Ayurveda would expect, really. And I think
Sure.
a lot of us in the health movement go because it's natural, it's safe, it's sustainable, it must be green. I really think, obviously, that's, in lots of areas that's changing, but there's a lot of work to be done to improve that understanding of Google, for example. I was just talking about Google. I mean, that is massively threatened. Kutki,
That's correct about
Jetamansi,
Putki. Yeah.
Pushta.
Yeah.
We shouldn't be using them. We should not be using the Kutki, Jetamansi
Yeah.
without a certificate of knowledge of it being grown. We really should wake up to that fact. And it's a it's tarnish on the Ayurvedic community, I'm afraid,
Yeah.
along with other areas around safety. But these are the areas that's our responsibility. It's a bit like our home. It gets a bit dusty in the corner. We need to clean it up. These things have happened unintentionally, but as we get more knowledge about resources and safety and welfare, we need to act, really. So that's there. They've been things close to my heart. Having been lucky enough to travel in India and walking the Himalayas, go hunting for plants, and seeing quite how few in some areas there is the low numbers of species of Nardistakis and Picca in the mountains. Um,
I was even chased by a tiger in the Himalayas.
oh wow, great!
I survived.
Well,
Yeah.
there's something that has been a success story in sustainability, hasn't it? The tigers in India really doing quite well in some areas where as you found out.
Yes, they keep eating the local villagers sometimes. I'm not sure, depending on the perspective.
You're right. No, there's many
So
challenges.
traveling through India, you travel through India extensively. I travel to India sometime. The quality of herbs, it's such a challenge. How do you even make sure that the herbs in Pukka teas are of the right quality? This must be an enormous task.
It has been huge. I mean, it's been massive. It's all about good people, really. All about good people in Pukka, experts in agriculture, and also great partners we've had, not just in India, but around the world. But it's working together to understand that our environment is highly contaminated. I'm afraid India, particularly in terms of analysis of herbs from pesticides, cross-contamination normally through flooding or wind, potentially soil contamination from banned pesticides in Europe. It's been a challenge. You have to test, basically. So every batch of herbs we buy, we test for
Wow.
over 600 or 700 pesticides for various mycotoxins, heavy metals, and then you test for the marker compound on the active ingredient. So yeah, it's taken many years of very hard work and interesting, amazing, rewarding work as well. But working with willing partners who understand the importance of relationships and they're farmers are also experts in what they do. I mean, farmers, they don't need me to come around and tell them how to grow it,
Yeah.
but there's maybe other pressures we've got in European markets where there are maybe different microbiological levels, etc. training in organic that we could do, training in sustainable wild harvesting, those sorts of things. So we had a team of people that would on the road full time, traveling, sometimes three
Wow.
people traveling around all the time, all our projects.
Okay. Wow. This is really amazing. Yes. Changing to more lighter topics. What is your favorite Pukka formula?
Oh, I mean, that's like asking me my favorite children. Um,
Ouch. Okay. No.
no, you know what I mean? No, I mean,
Five.
no, I
I
mean, I
hope you're not
love,
too ambitious. Just
I
five children.
know, no, I mean, you know, I mean, I particularly like, I love tea. I suppose it's something I drink all the time. I love the idea of the delicacy of flowers and that sweetness and that soothing nature. You know, and flowers are particularly difficult to grow and harvest. It really takes a lot of skill to dry a flower well to retain its aroma. And so the chamomile growers, and a field of chamomile is a beautiful thing to see. So I love that, and I love the message as well. Really,
Chamomile, if I may add one little thing, are really good dry chamomile in Istanbul,
Oh,
at the bazaar. I recommend it.
oh, right.
Yes.
Um, there's lots of, it's like a subculture herb growing. It's like a really specialist area. I mean, Poland, you're like amazing herb drinkers in Poland. There's sort of,
Sure.
it's a big part of the culture. And I think cultures that remain closer to nature have stronger relationships with plants and with natural medicine. And you could say that in the UK that sort of had moved away quite a lot to some degrees, but it feels like in parts of Europe, obviously across Asia, that is a closer connection. And so they're an essential part of life, really, aren't they? And we everybody uses them, whether you know it or not, but you can use them with more, I don't mean more consciously in a better way, you can just use them with more intention and more clarity. And so that
It's
can,
Ayurveda speaking. Intention before meal. Good
yeah.
intentions before meal.
And it makes life taste better as well. They taste good. So many of them. I mean, anyone that's got involved in Ayurveda, uh, their diet just improved, through flavor, let alone have it being good for your Agni and digestion and your dhatus and your health, all of those things. It just is Ayurvedic cooking, whether you're doing it, Indian spices or European or any other style. Um, it just really tastes good. So just from a pleasure and rasa point of view in life, why, indulge
Sure.
in that?
I love turmeric and asafoetida with rice. The quality,
Oh,
it goes up. Okay, so going back to your question, your five favorite children.
I mean, what are you talking of herbs or what is
Oh,
the?
tea, the pakatis, yeah,
Oh,
your,
keep going, you mean? Oh, right, five. Oh well, I mean, if you give me five, that's much easier. I mean, three
yes.
ginger. I mean, I start every day with a three ginger.
Mhm.
Drink that whenever it's cold. Whenever I go walking, I have a little water bottle like that. I'd put my ginger in there, and I feel new. Feel new was our old detox, and that's just seeds originally when I made it. So there was the idea that was just seeds. Love was just flowers. So you get this idea when I was making them of certain patterns that you can construct a formula from to have a particular feeling and benefit, basically, because we know the flowers are light and descending and soothing. Seeds are much more apanavayu and regulating vyanavayu, and so much more central.
You are definitely Vata constitution, Vata Pitta, I would say.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure.
Yeah.
So but, the combination of that, blows a lot of things.
Yeah,
So joy and peace I'll have to go for just because love, joy, peace. Three
sure.
ginger, feel new. That'd be my favorites, really.
Okay. Mm. So my number one, it's much more pedestrian. It is after dinner, fennel with
Oh,
cardamom, ginger.
no, I think that's an advanced one. That's an advanced one because, it's got roasted chicory in it and things like that. That was my idea to make it instead of a coffee, if people wanted something rich
Yes.
after a meal that's a bit more nourishing. So you could have that with roasted chicory, with a little bit of bitterness, which is good for any heavier, fattier foods, and then all the spices in there to help it. I also love that one as well.
Okay, very nice. And if anyone wanted to contribute to the herbal movement, organic herbal movement, how can they do it? Join the fair trade organization? I don't know what is the or are
I
you
mean,
consultants
I
and
think, as an individual practitioner, you can support suppliers that are investing the time and money and ensuring that the herbs they're buying come from a sustainable and ethically sourced place. Um, and that might mean paying a bit more because some of those factors around quality, etc., can have a cost attached to them. Um, if you're inspired yourself, you could start growing some herbs. Lots of Ayurveda herbs grow well in Europe, and you could start growing some things yourself. Um, you could always um, start learning a bit more about the herb trade generally and fair trade, and understand more about where your food comes from, and that will give you an idea about the herb trade being sort of even more marginalized than that. So I've got a website called Herbal Reality that a group of us run, or I haven't got it, I set it up, but a group of us run it. And that's got lots of information on there about herb harvesting, sustainability. There's various videos from some experts talking about it. So I'll get informed. And, given what's going on with the climate crisis, ecological crisis, it should be really top of our list as practitioners looking to help heal in a way. I know you're always trying to lighten the conversation, Caroline. I'm sorry if I'm a bit
No,
intense.
no, no, no. This is so important, and no one talks about it. Everybody talks about, taking ashwagandha, and I heard that ashwagandha has a huge problem with lead, right? Yeah.
Well, let's talk about ashwagandha. Let's come back to ashwagandha in a minute. But
Okay.
there's this idea of with the you can see a metaphor with Ayurvedic diagnosis, what is going on in the climate. So if you were to diagnose the planet from an Ayurvedic point of view, there's obviously a huge pitta inflammation going on with the
A lot
heat
of
going
ama. Yes, ama.
on, and and uh,
Um,
and breakdown in ojas as you lose ecosystem vitality. And so obviously there's a lot of climate anxiety as well, from probably particularly more of our clientele who you might say are interested in nature and natural way of living. So, there's a lot we can do to be helping people overcome and gain context and get some sense of hope and engagement in this reality and try and drive change, basically. If every Ayurvedic practitioner said they were only going to buy herbs of X quality and sustainability, that would happen pretty quickly. But that isn't the case. Obviously we're quite a small group, and Ayurveda industry selling to the public is probably much bigger. So you maybe need more of the public action as well. But as leaders of the science and Ayurveda, we've got an opportunity to speak up as an organization and a community. And there's a organization in the UK called the Herbal Alliance, which is like a collection of the different herbal organizations. And they have got a really good course in sustainable education for practitioners, and have done quite a lot of work around what quality standards should be for a practitioner. When we say sort of Ayurvedic grade, what do we mean?
I'll add the link to this organization.
Yeah, Herbal Alliance. They've got so it's free actually on the website. You can join as an international practitioner association, and a great group of people with lots of knowledge around some of these complex areas. And so, in that diagnosis of the climate and ecosystem, that's how we apply a cure in a way, or a treatment strategy, is by helping the people that are engaged in it. And in a way, ashwagandha, going back to that, is so popular because of the levels of anxiety that people
Yes.
are experiencing, feeling for multitude of reasons. And as a result, quite a specialist herb that was probably used at a more specific time in certain treatment programs in Ayurveda, perhaps after some Shodhana and cleansing and different times of year. Ayurveda now has become a sort of generic inclusion in many people's lifestyle. Certainly has in mine, but
Sorry.
it's got lots of it's suddenly, because it's got so many good effects as well, and it's got such positive research on the endocrine system, rejuvenation. It really does seem like the perfect herb for the
Sure.
modern world in lots of ways, doesn't it?
Sure.
But it has been shown recently to come up with quite a lot of safety issues,
Exactly.
particularly around using it near paracetamol. Using extracts with the leaf seemed to be a problem.
Okay,
And so
cheaper.
I think in Poland it just got a limit was put on the maximum daily use of ashwagandha. I think I'm right in saying it's 3 grams a day. There was the law from the Polish government. Yeah.
Oh,
So
I'm not aware of it. Thank you.
and across Europe, it's Netherlands has just brought a law out about ashwagandha. There's lots of discussion around its safety, and on Herbal Reality, we've written Simon Mills, who I work with, who's a wonderful
Yeah,
herbal
I saw his videos. Incredible guy.
leader, leader in the whole herbal world, really. He's written a great review that's been peer reviewed by other safety experts on Ayurveda, which I'd recommend everyone to have a look at because it is freely used. And whenever we talk about anything being a panacea, I think we have to be a little bit careful in
Yeah.
that sense.
Not everything for everyone, right?
No, I mean I've probably been guilty of being overly ashwagandha enthusiastic in the past, but
I said
it's
so.
uh, it's obviously very useful. All herbs are, but going back to what we said at the beginning, it's all about who's using how much of what and when really is the thing to include.
So how can you make sure that the ashwagandha you buy is okay quality or it doesn't destroy the ecosystem in India?
Well, to make sure there's sort of ecological checks, you need to make sure it's got some type of ecological certification. So it needs to be organic, really, is the only ecological certification that would stack up for ashwagandha. There may be some other ones as well. Maybe Rainforest Alliance does something, I'm not sure. But they normally do bigger commodity crops. So probably organic. You've got to make sure it's tested for pesticides and heavy metals and microbiology. Every batch of herbs that you use should be tested for those things, in my opinion, because of the risk associated with contamination. Not that there's any necessarily mean a risk with that particular herb, but then with ashwagandha, it's become to light that there is a need to test it for species identification because traditionally only the root has been used.
Yeah,
There are now a lot of extracts on the market using the leaf because the withanolides in the plant, the so-called active marker compound, are also in the leaf, and it's cheaper to harvest the leaf and the root.
sure.
But looking like high dose withanolide ashwagandha products are at an idiosyncratic level. When used by millions of people, there are getting to be some small numbers of idiosyncratic reactions. And so, as a practitioner, I'd really recommend that you only use the tested, churner or tablet or whatever ashwagandha formula you're using. But I'd really just take care because natural medicine, Ayurveda, herbal medicine is under an extra spotlight regarding quality and safety. Perhaps rightly because there is lots of adulteration and
Sure.
misnamed products and lots of cheaper products that might not be tested. And so we don't want to bring Ayurveda into any, disrepute in that sense. It's a long tradition with a lot of respect. There are areas that need addressing. And,
So
and
many.
that's something we can all do as practitioners by making sure we work with suppliers that are spending the time, effort, and money to test to ensure our patient safety. That's how I come across it anyway.
Okay, so this all
I've
goes
been in
back.
the industry for a long time. I've been around the block for a long time. I've traveled around India for years, every year, visiting
Wow.
tens and I've been to hundreds of farms in India, loads of factories. We need to test. I would just, think of it as you're giving your child some food. You need to make sure it's really good, and it's like that. And I think the industry could well do with tightening up. There are plenty of good suppliers though that do a really good job. Just just work with them. And if you don't know what your supplier does, just ask them. They probably are doing it, and they can provide you with the information. But I would stay close to your supplier and work with them, and they can sort that out.
You think the situation in India is getting better or worse?
I think it's probably getting better.
The awareness of the
I mean, it depends what we're saying getting better. What I was meaning there is the more testing of Ayurvedic products in India. So yes, I think that is getting better. There's the Food Standards Agency and Ayush in India, I think, are doing lots of work with that regard. are all batches of Ayurvedic products that are made and sold on the market of the highest standard, or the minimum highest standard, should we say? No, I don't think they are by a long way.
Sure,
So
sure.
be careful where you buy your food, be careful where you buy your herbs. So
Exactly. That's
be
a
careful where you buy your clothes. You know, it's a mass market. Lots
yeah,
of people trying to make money off it.
sure.
Make sure you work with people that you think are working to the integrity that you would like to do. I mean, we can't do everything as practitioners. It's hard because, you know, we're in Europe. Lots of our herbs come from India, and our job is to be a doctor or, you know, a practitioner in that sense, caring for people.
Okay. Okay, now changing to a much lighter topic. Really. What I read in your biography that you also studied philosophy, Indian philosophy, and what is your favorite god in the Hinduism?
Oh,
That
I studied Indian religion as part of my degree when I
okay.
studied Hindi at SOAS, but I'm not a Hindu or anything like that, and I
Sure,
don't
yes, I
follow
can
anything
tell.
like that. I mean, gosh, my world is covered with Indian gods. I suppose Nataraj is a particular deity, though, or you know,
Sure.
symbol of life and creation and emanation that I feel that I relate to and love that, and that got me into that feeling of creation and its fragility, really, and its power. You know, I got interested in that.
Not Brahmi,
Uh,
one of the three, Vishnu, Shiva, and Brahmi.
Brahma, no, I didn't. No, I
Too
mean,
obvious.
no, I just didn't feel that. And also, you know, Nataraj, Shiva are associated with yoga and Lord
Okay.
Hanuman in service of Shiva and Hanuman and the, you know, carrying the Herbal Mountain and, you know, all of these things. Yeah, of course. I love Indian mythology, religion, spirituality, philosophy. You know, it's incredibly provocative and full of wisdom
Yeah,
and insight. I mean, yeah, 100%. But
sure.
um, you know, I suppose I'm interested in it being relevant to now and today, and my world for me is more relevant. And I personally feel a synthesis of sort of psychotherapeutic approaches to awareness and harmony go very well with Indian philosophy. But anyone on their own, I think, I feels a bit lacking, and it feels like there is a, you know, I suppose I'm into synthesis is what the conversation seems to be, and I
Clearly,
enjoy
clearly.
the
Looking at the
yoga, should we say, of
book.
East and West. Uh,
Yes.
yeah,
Hmm.
but I mean, I love, you know, the value of I don't know, that regular routine that Ayurveda encourages. That's so simple and accessible. That power of having these small but nourishing, engaging interventions you can make moment to moment in the day. I really love. So, you know, short yoga practice, doing some movement, deeper breathing practice, doing some meditation, you know, attending to how I'm feeling or
Abhyanga, for
feeling the
instance,
process.
in the morning, my
Abhyanga,
favorite.
yeah, all of those
After yoga,
things.
before
Um,
yoga.
I mean, it's full-time job, Ayurveda, isn't it? You know, I don't do Abhyanga after yoga every day.
Absolutely, yeah.
That's not possible. But I, um, I really think that some of the simple things in Ayurveda are some of its most powerful, really, and that routine and those insights, I think, are really fantastic. Of course, you know, Dr. Ladd. Well, so many good teachers have brought lots
Yeah.
of these aspects together, and feel like it's, you know, meeting a great need in our European
And
hearts and minds, really, where there is this, uh, yeah, greater need for harmonizing, I think, different worldviews and a deeper sense of being able to engage in your life and have some control sounds too strong a word, but some influence and decision over how you can alter things for the better and optimize in a way. Maybe that's a better word. You know, I feel like Ayurveda helps us optimize. You know, the body's going to digest, we're going to go to sleep, you know, it's going to cleanse. It does
yeah,
that anyway. But Ayurveda just does that optimizing extremely well, and then a skilled Ayurvedic practitioner can really unlock some of the old patterns. But I love that simple routine. That's what works for me.
Yeah, I love the routine, also the daily routine, and I love the some of the myths and theology of the Hinduism. And I really like how you live exactly in harmony with the environment. It's opposed to the Judo-Christian tradition where human is just above everything, is just the conqueror of everything, right? And in the Hinduism, it's part of. So yes, it's a
In theory, I'd say,
yeah, yes, we've been to India, yes.
because it's how it's applied as well, and I don't want to pass judgment on either religion in any way or
Sure.
culture.
No
But
judge.
I think it's and that's about, I suppose, what's relevant to us is how we apply that as
Yeah.
individually and with our clients and as a community. That's probably what's more relevant, not being in charge of the entire world religious decisions. But I think that anyway, then there's so much wisdom and teaching within Ayurveda for that, isn't there? It is a guide. It gives you insight. You know, you can pick and choose a little bit. You can follow the whole shebang. It depends what suits you at different times. It's like you can dial it up or dial it down. It's very compassionate, I find, in terms of allowing freedom of choice. I mean, it can become too strict if applied, or it might need to be really strict at times as well if someone needs that. But generally, it feels like a very, it's all nice things, isn't it? Like soft kitchery and delicious ladus and nice, nice massage.
Very nice.
But I mean, it's just, obviously it grew out of a need in society, but also it grew out of part of the wealth in society. Punch karma grew out of kings and royalty getting luxury treatments to extend their life. I mean, no one else could normally afford to do punch karma. I mean, taking whatever a month out to get a massage and fed and everything. There's no way. Everyone was working too hard. So that was not as it's not a it's got a sort of
It's not a democratic system.
Perhaps it just had those lots of important, valuable, should we say, luxury items have grown out of that, those fortunes in a way, but then they can spread more widely afterwards. And yeah, probably nearly everyone can access Panchakarma. If not in a clinic, you can do lots of it yourself. And in terms of the sort of early preparations and these patterns with good guidance from someone, and just the accessibility these days on the internet and channels like this, I imagine with YouTube, you can really learn a lot. But if anyone's a practitioner listening, or someone hasn't been to see an Ayurvedic practitioner or herbalist, that's what I'd encourage people to do. If anyone's out there listening, because the knowledge that an Ayurvedic practitioner has it's like free, maybe not free, it's priceless information. Of course you have to pay to see somebody, but that knowledge is priceless. Once you get to work out how your digestive system works and how your nervous system works, and you can learn to adjust that as life throws different challenges at you. Sometimes it's love tea, sometimes it's not such a pleasant cup. So you have to adjust, don't you, really? And I think seeing practitioners is a really good way. So rather than picking and choosing stuff off the shelf and saying, I need ashwagandha or I need triphala, go and see an Ayurvedic practitioner and get the whole treatment like you take your car to get fixed.
Sure. And also the challenge from the practitioner, Ayurvedic practitioner side, because the knowledge is just enormous. The more you learn, the more you know that you know very, very little, at least from my perspective.
So true. Yeah, it's a vast field, isn't it?
Yeah. Okay, very nice talking to you. Thank you very much. And for everyone, please subscribe to our channel and see you next week.
Thank you, Carolina. Great to be
Thank
with
you very
you.
much.
Thank you.